Hi, if you want to watch exclusive content with hot girls that you won't watch on YouTube, namely where Naruto roasts Kushina and Mikoto and many other hot girls without restrictions, then visit my Boosty channel at the link in the description. You know, people tend to break down. It's just, they get tired of constantly putting on a good-natured smile. They get tired of showing themselves as worthless or incompetent. There are many such people and they are called differently. Some call them liars, some call them bastards, some call them idiots. And some don't even suspect that they exist. This was, is, and will be the case with me. For a long time I didn't understand. Why did people avoid me? Why would they be afraid of a 7-year-old boy, take their children away from him, try to beat him and humiliate him mentally? Maybe he also wants to have a loving family and true friends. These were my thoughts. How can a little boy think so sensibly? It's simple. He is an orphan, and they, as we know, grow up early. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I am a resident of the village hidden in the leaves. To my chagrin, other people call me demon, fox, monster, or murderer. I, for a long time, did not understand why they hate me, and the old Hokage practically does not help me. It's offensive. And it's also very, very painful. And only a year ago, before entering the Ninja Academy, I found the answer to my question. This was another attempt to beat me up. I'm sick of it. I just want to end my life. And now, lying on the ground and feeling how a fairly abundant stream of blood, which starts from my temple, colors my hair red, I dreamed of seeing death. I want to touch her fingers. I wonder if they are cold or not? I'm already thinking about taking the hidden kunai from my breeches pocket and checking how many minutes it will take for the blood to flow out of the cut vein. But something stops me. It's as if an electric charge passed through my brain. And I just switch off, plunging into the saving darkness. Some might think that the darkness is oppressive, but in my opinion it softly envelopes the body and calms the soul. Instead of the expected impenetrable darkness, I found myself in a strange place. Endless corridors with pipes, more like a sewer with poor lighting and a strange source of heat and aggressive energy. It immediately became clear that this was chakra, but some kind of scary one. It was bright, hot, scary to the point that even the bones began to shake. I haven't been afraid of this for a long time. I already control my chakra at a level high enough for a child, and calmly standing up from the floor I walked towards the source of this terrible power. True, I was already alarmed by the fact that the ribs, which only a couple of minutes ago seemed to be ground into dust, were not broken. As we got closer to the source of this chakra, water appeared on the floor, flowing from an unknown source and how. And as we got closer to the place of interest, the chakra changed. Did it become sad and tired or something? Arriving at the place I was looking for, a golden gate appeared before me as if in a fairy tale, which was held not by a terribly complex lock, but by a simple piece of paper. And behind the cage 2 eyes with vertical pupils and a bright red iris were visible. Fury, anger, hatred and much more were visible in the eyes. But everything that was expressed in them was played by a professional actor. Without even letting the strange creature say a word, I abruptly began our dialogue. Please do not hide your true feelings. And could you introduce yourself, and also tell us where we are and how you ended up behind this strange lattice? Having said these sentences, I looked at this creature. It was in a kind of shock, but after a couple of seconds the eyes behind the cage acquired their true feelings, namely, resentment, sadness, and enormous pain. The creature spoke to me in its hoarse voice. I knew that you were pretending in front of the residents of this village. He exposed me? There's nothing surprising, Naruto. During our conversation, you'll understand who I am, and perhaps how I ended up here. Where should I begin? Let's tell you where we are, and then see how it goes. As for me, this is the best option. After a pause, my interlocutor began his speech. As you have already understood, you and I are now in an unusual place. Some call it a dream, others a second reality, others say that it is a parallel world. I call it the subconscious. This is your subconscious. You already know a lot, so I will tell you right away. How much do you know about Biju? Compare the facts and your thoughts, and I will not need to explain much. There was silence, and while Naruto was wondering who was talking to him, they decided to give him a hint. Hey Naruto, you want to see who you're talking to, right? And noticing the delight in the boy's eyes, he continued to look carefully. Gradually, emerging from the shadow of the cage, the fox-like face of this creature and its neck were illuminated. Part of the body was bright orange, like everything mentioned above, and a tail appeared. No, that's not a tails. Fluffy tails with black tassels on the edge of each. Having counted them all, one can come to the conclusion that there are 9 of them, tails. And in this room a voice sounded, but not as sharply and confidently as before. 9 tails? Wait, am I a Jinchuriki? And thanks to this conversation I learned a lot. You can even make a list, and it will look something like this. 1. I need to be wary of the elders, Koharu and Hamira. And also Shimura Danzo. The last of them is an important person who was once in contact with the village's trader, Orochimaru. 2. I realized my dream, I understood who my parents are. And even though the Ninetail didn't tell me who they were, I guessed it myself. Yes, I'm angry at my father, in his place I would have done the same thing. Probably. 3. Uchiha Madara is alive and thanks to my roommate I am in the risk zone. 4. I know the Ninetail's true name. I'm the first one he trusted since Rakuto Sannin. 5. I have a special chakra. And it is possible that either a Kikei Genkai, or a Dojutsu, or much more may appear. Blood is not water. 6. If I sit only in the village under the control of the Supreme Council of the village, I'm finished. So when I receive the rank of Chunin, I immediately run away from the village, as far as possible. Well, that's pretty much it. And now it's time for me to put on the mask of an idiot and keep my emotions under control. After all, I'm sick of this village. I can only find 5 people who treat me normally. The view from the 4th Hokage's cliff is insanely beautiful. I need to run. Let a new day dawn. Arriving in the office where Iruka-sensei will conduct lessons, Naruto realized that this group of shinobi will not change. Everything will always be the same. Sakura and Ino will yell at each other for a place in Sasuke-kun's heart, and this piece of ice named Sasuke will still be the same arrogant child who has one goal in life to prove to his father that he is also worthy of the clan's name. Shikamaru will be dozing at the last desks, and next to him, Akimichi Jr. will be eating his nth pack of chips. Somewhere nearby, Kiba the dog lover will be sitting and playing with his puppy Akamaru. Abirame Shino will be sitting in the corner from everyone else, looking at his bugs. Girls will be running around the entire class, squealing the already disgusting name of the younger Uchiha. Among all these, so to speak, people, I have only one trusted person. Shikamaru. He was just tired of seeing me pretend. He was able to put the facts together and come to a smart conclusion. Something that not all the people in this village could do. They say that a best friend is a person who understands you without words. You pick up habits from him, both good and bad. Together with him you do different things, including pranks, and receiving punishments, and training, and walking. This list can be listed endlessly. A best friend is truly the best. It is impossible to express feelings about this person in words, as well as about love. And finding such a person is even harder. I am not a philosopher, but I think a couple of lines of reasoning conveyed my thoughts. This is approximately how I think about Shikamaru, one of my few friends. When our sensei starts lecturing about the history of the Third Shinobi War, I get bored. Kurama knows history, geography, psychology, and physiology very well. This bijou is generally a treasure trove of knowledge in any field, and especially in the field of anatomy. I was so lost in thought that when I was asked, I answered automatically. And everything would be fine if I answered incorrectly. I don't want my carcass to be led to the old senile man number 2 in the entire village, the 3rd Hokage. The place of the first will always belong to Danzo. The most important thing is to relax and do nothing. You can talk about everything, about yourself, about the village, about how to pretend further, about your friends, and about the look that burns through me the entire lecture. I recently started sitting in the middle rows, and there was one girl left behind, who has hopes of my mutual love. Forgive me, Hinata, but it's unlikely to work out. Even if you become more beautiful than Sakura and Ino a little later, I don't want to go against the head of your clan. You haven't conquered me. And now the lecture has come to an end. How quickly, I didn't even notice. Next came practical classes. So, children, now we will practice throwing kunai and shuriken. Whoever wants can take Senbon. You need to hit the target, which is behind me, on the training pole. There can be 10 hits in total. Let's begin. I call out a name, a student comes to me, stands on the mark and throws his weapon. Iruka-sensei is finally collected, the first. Inuzuka Kiba. The boy came up, took the kunai, but didn't notice one thing. They had chakra threads attached to them. Naturally, Naruto decided to play with them and practice himself. He had learned this trick quite recently, but his level of mastery wasn't high enough. He didn't even dream of being able to compare with the Suna puppeteers, but he really wanted to have a trump card for himself. Noticing Shikamaru's approving half-smile, Naruto continued. Kiba only hit the target once. It was a bit far from the center, but he hit it. Hareno's Sakura. Her senbons also had chakra threads attached to them. Sakura hit 3 times. It continued like this. Shino hit 3 times, Shikamaru 6 times, Chuji 5 times, and the great and unrivaled Sasuke Uchiha could only hit the target 4 times. And if the younger Uchiha had a Sharingan, he would have heard one short phrase and seen the threads of someone else's chakra, and not been offended by everything and everyone in the corner of the training ground. It was nice to break you, Sasuke, and a quiet laugh. When Naruto came out and hit the target 6 times, no one believed it. The stupidest thing, in Naruto's opinion, was that such classes taught nothing. Where had a shinobi seen an opponent freeze like a pillar during a fight? Or maybe you can defeat an opponent by hitting him in the arm? Stupidity! This will never happen anywhere. It would be better to at least make the pillars spin with the help of seals. Or draw on nerve endings and a chakra circulation system. Throwing the same senbons just like that was stupid enough. Then the number of shinobi was equal to quality. This so-called training lasted for a long time. But no one, not even Iruka, noticed a pair of eyes carefully watching Uzumaki. Itachi Uchiha was special from childhood. Being born into the strongest clan of Konohagakure was the first confirmation. At the age of 4, during the Third Shinobi World War, he witnessed the death of a huge number of shinobi, and at the age of 7 he had already graduated from the Ninja Academy. A year later, he awakened the Sharingan, and 3 years later he had already become a Chunin. At the age of 13, he entered ANBU and worked for the Hokage. They carried out all sorts of missions, searching for missing nin, intercepting and searching for various documents or scrolls, clearing out various cities' murders. It was hard to work in ANBU, but every time the elder Uchiha went to the Hokage's office, he appeared in a small cloud of smoke, listened to the necessary information and, nodding dryly, left. Quietly and quickly, as if all the lives of Konoha's inhabitants depended on it. The new assignment from the Hokage was no exception. To come late at night and listen to the information about the assignment. And be surprised. Itachi, I understand that this is not a typical mission, but I can at least trust you, Sarutobi said, slowly puffing on his pipe. Uzumaki Naruto is a Jinchuriki, which means that he will be hunted at some point. We need to prepare him. Moreover, Danzo has his eye on him, and he will not leave Naruto alone. You must keep an eye on Konoha's Jinchuriki and, if possible, become friends. Your younger brother studies with Naruto, in the same group at the academy. At the same time, you will see his successes. Hiruzen-sama knew how to smile kindly, and if he decided that Itachi was suitable for this task, then Itachi would complete it. Permission, Hokage-sama? Having received a nod from the village ruler, the ANBU captain continued, What do you mean, prepare him? Train him? He's not an Uchiha, there's little I can teach him. And how about making friends? Itachi, you will understand everything yourself, geniuses can see each other from a mile away. And again an approving smile. Not knowing what to answer, Itachi said goodbye and left. Through the window. And he didn't hear how the third was lamenting about the fact that there was a door in his office. And he didn't hear what the Hokage was muttering about the future he saw through the crystal ball known to everyone. At first, Itachi didn't want to take on the mission at all. No, it's a trivial mission to look after a child, but still, it's not a specialization. A little later, he wanted to deal with it, like with any other previously executed. He did it automatically, handed in the report to the Hokage and forgot about it. True, he had no idea that this mission would interest him. The next morning for Itachi was no different from any other. He quickly got up, washed himself, and ate lightly. And even somehow happily, he headed across the rooftops to Uzumaki's apartment. There were quite a few things that made Uchiha wary. Firstly, at 6 in the morning the subject, that is, Naruto, was not asleep, although there were definitely 2 hours to the academy. Secondly, the boy was training. And no, these were not ordinary push-ups or a simple warm-up, but a series of exercises that a ninja of at least the Chunin level could perform. Thirdly, according to the data obtained, Naruto was not particularly bright and generally did stupid things quite often. This was indicated by his poor academic performance at the academy, although the boy himself was constantly walking around the small, surprisingly neatly tidied apartment, too thoughtful for a child, even with a difficult childhood. This already alerted the brave A and BU fighter. Since the Hokage had said to keep an eye on Uzumaki all day, the elder Uchiha followed him like a silent shadow to the old academy building. "I'll also check on Sasuke," he thought at that moment. Itachi was very inspired by the fact that he could combine business with pleasure. He was carrying out a mission and looking after his brother. During the lecture, as the brunette noticed, the Jinchuriki was practically not listening to anything and was thinking about other things. And his appearance, with emotions, was also strange. Anbu taught how to recognize the smallest psychological and mental changes in a person's behavior, and so Itachi could safely say that Naruto was acting as if he knew about this topic. Although it already seemed to Uchiha that Uzumaki knew too much for a simple academy student. Itachi was frankly bored and almost fell asleep when he watched the training of throwing weapons at a target. It seemed that they weren't even genins, but he still wanted to see something impressive. True, he paid attention to Shikamaru and Nara. He threw kunai in a special way, not like the others. Apparently the boy had already been trained in the clan. When it was his younger brother's turn, he already hoped that he would see something interesting. But his intuition screamed at the top of his lungs to activate the Sharingan. Tomo lit up in his eyes. Itachi's intuition often helped him. He was used to trusting himself. What Sasuke's older brother saw would have surprised any jonin. The kunai had chakra threads attached to them, seeking out their own target. They were reaching out to his younger brother's weapon. And they weren't reaching out to just anyone, but to Uzumaki. At first, the observer thought he had been hit on the head by a brick, at the very least. This discovery was too impossible, even absurd. Itachi wasn't upset that his brother hadn't hit the target the required number of times. On the contrary, he forgot about his brother for dozens of minutes. He was much more interested in seeing all of Naruto's capabilities. It immediately became clear that the boy really could do a lot, although what had already been shown was little. Too little to make hasty conclusions. "Here's your riddle," the thought flashed through the brunette's head. Without waiting for the end of the training, he formed a seal and evaporated in a cloud of white smoke. The brave Konoha fighter had a lot to think about. Somewhere northeast of Konoha's central gate, Kimimaro, breathing heavily and limping, was heading wherever his eyes looked. Blood was flowing in liters from his ripped-open stomach, and his head was aching from the powerful blows. Orochimaru-sama had sent him to catch some bunch of bandits in Kuni. In general, there shouldn't have been anyone except fighters of a level slightly below Chunin. At least, that's what Kabuto had informed him. Kagaya hadn't expected to see the renegade jonin from Cloud and Sand there, who handled cold weapons quite well. He had completed the mission, but the fight had dragged on too long, and he had managed to receive a couple of serious wounds, and already at the end of the battle, someone had stunned him from behind. A moment later, his stomach had been ripped open. The fighter Oto didn't remember very well how he escaped. The loss of blood was taking its toll. The guy really thought that his master was worried about his creation and that they would find him. He didn't know that Snake Sanin had other plans for his carcass. An unknown disease began to progress and the boy, as a fighter, was weakening. Orochimaru didn't need such fighters. A few minutes later, Kimimaro fell on his back, exhausted. He wanted to live, but he couldn't go on. It was a bit of a shame that he let himself lose so quickly and couldn't live up to his master's expectations. The last thing he saw before he lost consciousness was someone's blonde hair. Naruto couldn't understand why his pet, the great nine-tailed fox, sent him outside the village. No, he believed his friend, but he was a little tired. after his personal training, in a bad mood after the academy, and on top of that hungry. And this red lump of fleas, that's what Naruto called Kurama when he was angry. Out of love, of course, advised him to show himself better than usual during training, I quote. "We'll put on a show for one person." Horrible. Why the hell did he agree to go somewhere? Well, not exactly somewhere. If you don't get lazy, which was a very difficult task, especially when Shikamaru is nearby, and go north, around the protective wall of Konoha, you can come to a clearing. As his Bijou explained to him, it was created by some team during his attack on Konoha. Why and how the Bijou remembered this clearing in those moments of rage, Naruto did not ask. Everyone has their own quirks. How come it hasn't ceased to exist yet? The young ninja didn't think twice, but rushed towards his goal at full speed. He almost reached this wasteland and felt the faint echoes of someone's chakra. In the right place, on the dirty ground, lay a blond man in a kimono tied with a thick purple belt and ordinary shinobi pants. 2 red dots adorned his forehead. At the root base, Danzo was gritting his teeth in resentment. The third had once again refused to give him the Jinchuriki. This was irritating, but Shimura was able to moderate his ardor. Let Hiruzen get the Hokage position again, let him keep that bastard Uzumaki. He had won 2 battles, but Danzo would win the war and take Konoha's weapons into his own hands. Somewhere in the bunkers on the outskirts of Ta no Kuni. Orochimaru sighed sadly. He had lost such a good research material as Kimimaro. Moreover, this silver-haired guy could have become his next body. Kagaya could have given him her Kekii Genkai, if not for his rare and unexplored disease. The Sannin could not understand what one of his Sound 5 had fallen ill with. If Tsunadeheim were here, the last member of the dead clan could have been saved. True, there was no one nearby, and treating an already dead fighter was, in principle, a waste of money and time. Biting his lip from the inside and grimacing a little, the brunette returned to work. He could reason later, but the papers needed to be checked now. Kabuto was working in one of the laboratories. They had come across a very interesting specimen from the Hozuki clan, the younger brother of the late swordsman of the Miss Mangetsu, and he wanted to extract one piece of the chain responsible for the Haiden technique from his DNA and implant it into himself. So far, nothing has worked. Suigetsu himself was just shaking, lying on the cold, metal table. He had just come to his senses and remembered almost nothing except his name, and he didn't understand. For some reason, he couldn't use Suka. The guy was confused and just wanted to twitch, when he felt a needle inserted into his vein. He was switching off, but one thought had definitely formed in his head. He would get out of this place, no matter what it cost him. Or he wasn't Hozuki Suigetsu. In Konoha, Naruto, frankly speaking, hardly understood his best friend. Kurama had certainly become kinder, more talkative, and so on, but he was still grumpy. Often, even growling. Sometimes he became very cheerful and talkative, but this did not stop him from remaining a cunning and sly creature. And now, the boy was changing the bandage on his guest's forehead. At least, that's what Uzumaki called that guy from the clearing. The blonde was scared by the stranger's condition. Even though Naruto wasn't a medic nin, it was immediately obvious that his surprise was sick. "Hey, Kurama! Can you hear me?" Naruto mentally addressed the Bijou. "I'm not deaf yet," said the fox. "But with you I'll soon go deaf." "What did you want, huh?" "Listen, your little surprise is sick." In reality, Naruto shook his bright head. "This won't do. He needs to be cured." "More precisely, Kurama should cure him?" The red fox from the cage decided to be a little sarcastic. "Okay, nothing to do anyway." Guided by Kyuubi's hints, Naruto began to slowly pour the Bijou's chakra into the other's body. Few knew, but Yukai can be used, in the right proportions, as a panacea. Naruto didn't know that he had just cured his future colleague of an illness that could have led to death. And how lucky he was that no one had assigned him to be followed. Phew, the boy wiped beads of sweat from his forehead. Why am I so tired even though I was? The connecting link? Working with the Bijou chakra is not that easy, the Nine-Tails replied. Especially since you infused the Yukai not into a Jinchuriki, but into an ordinary shinobi. It's as if the guy had a Kekii Genkai. At that moment, the guy lying on the bed began to shiver slightly. Okay, Kurama, Naruto started speaking out loud. I'm going to the kitchen and to sleep. Silence was his answer. In Amigekure. Nagato. Konan was very worried about her friend. Even though the civil war had ended and Hanzo had been overthrown, too many victims had been made. It was especially painful for the girl to remember Yahiko's death. Now, looking at the body of her best and only friend and seeing the huge kokushin sticking out of his back, the heart of the angel of Amigekure would be torn to pieces. The girl covered her nose and mouth with her hands so that the sobs would not be heard. She and Nagato would fulfill their friend's dream. Somewhere in the shadows, a man in an orange mask grinned. The part about how making a friend is actually really easy. Kurama, have mercy! The thing was, Naruto was currently training. About a day and a half had passed since finding that strange guy in the clearing, and instead of checking on his condition. Yes, Naruto had to go to training. In Naruto's mind, training is some kind of educational activity to increase one's strength. For Kurama, another reason to mock his Jinchuriki. What these trainings did not have: hundreds of training blows to dummies, thousands of pull-ups and squats, throwing, stabbing and cutting objects, hours of meditation, explanations of the basics, and, of course, practice in jutsu. All of the above took a lot of time, as well as strength, chakra and nerves. Uzumaki, however, stubbornly continued to torture himself, and again, instead of a hearty dinner of several servings of ramen, he chose training. Don't whine, Kyubi answered him. You'll thank me later. Naruto hobbled to his apartment with difficulty. His legs ached, his hands were shaking from fatigue, and his head was spinning, and his empty stomach stubbornly reminded him of itself with a plaintive rumbling. Uzumaki endured everything. At home, there was no tasty dinner in the form of freshly brewed ramen waiting for him, but a guy who had just woken up and was occupying his bed. Sleep and fatigue, by the way, disappeared as if by magic. Instantly. The conversation with the guy didn't go well. It turned out that he had amnesia. He didn't remember his name, his origin, or anything like that. There was only one thing: Naruto felt a powerful chakra of a weak Jonin level from him. No, it wasn't hard to understand that he was a ninja, at least by the pouch and the scars on his body. But something about this situation didn't please the blonde. Don't you remember anything at all? Uzumaki asked again. Absolutely, the guy answered uncertainly. He behaved predictably. He turned his head around. His eyes did not stop at one point, and his body itself shuddered every now and then. What do you think, Kurama? Is he pretending or is it memory loss? Naruto asked the bijou mentally. The demon was silent for a long time, about 20 minutes. At this time the blonde carried away his temporary roommate with a conversation about nothing, but then answered. I can't help you. There's some kind of suppressive seal on him, and he himself seems to be hidden in a cocoon. The fox clicked his tongue. You need to go to the Hokage. Uzumaki grimaced in reality. Even though it was approaching midnight, someone was chatting too much, but Naruto still ran to the residence. There were few people on the streets, and if there were, they did not pay attention to him. Very soon the red walls of the main residence appeared before my eyes, and getting to the Hokage would not be difficult. The old man, by the way, was not surprised by his arrival. Maybe his intuition told him, maybe he was really waiting, or maybe. Yes, many of these could. Who knows him, this Hokage, except for himself? Uzumaki, who remained an idiot for those around him, immediately ran into his office and, leaning on the table, began to excitedly tell about his new roommate. Just don't blurt out too much. Just don't blurt out too much. Naruto repeated to himself like a mantra. The Hokage only smoked his pipe and squinted at the blonde in front of him. Naruto, the old man silenced the blonde. Bring your find to me. I'll ask the medics to sort out his problems, and then, if necessary, of course, we'll use the Yamanaka clan's techniques on him. The old man smiled, and Naruto smiled back. The blonde was about to leave, but froze at Sarutobi's question. Is there anything else you want to tell me? Not to say that Hiruzen's gaze scanned him better than any X-ray that would mean silence. Naruto didn't like it, but it wasn't the first time he pretended to be an idiot. I don't understand what you're talking about, old man, and without letting the old man say a word, he ran away. I'll still talk to you, Naruto. Not in this life, Hokage-sama. Uzumaki got home on the rooftops. Once home, Naruto brewed 2 packs of his favorite dish, one for himself and one for this guy. How can you eat this crap, huh? Kurama was indignant in his mind. Naruto ignored him. He was thinking about where to put it. Damn, what should he call it? Guy. Naruto addressed his neighbor. The man sitting opposite him only raised his eyes to the Jinchuriki. You didn't remember your name? Uzumaki didn't expect an answer. Not even a little bit. My name was Kimimaro Kagaya. The speaker's light hair fell out of its low ponytail and framed his face. I remembered my name. A smile appeared on Kagaya's face, light, imperceptible, but sincere. And that's it? Yeah, Naruto knew how to ruin the moment. I didn't have any friends. And you? Do you have friends? Uzumaki slightly curled his lips. He was well acquainted with loneliness and had a misunderstanding with his surroundings, but he could not be called socially dead. And the life of the party either. Especially if the company consisted of one person. Just one. You will be against. Naruto didn't like drama. He could have listened to Kimimara's babble for a long time, but his butt was hurting terribly from sitting and fatigue suddenly decided to take its toll. What do you think? He asked the fox. As you wish. I'm not your mother to forbid you, and I'm not your nanny to control you, they sarcastically replied. Let's be friends, Kimimaro. As a sign of respect, the Jinchuriki extended his hand for a handshake. The handshake took place. You know, Red Flea Ball, I'll remember your words next time we train. And yeah, this Kimimaro will start life anew. From scratch. Itachi continues his surveillance. This Uzumaki is very strange. Even though he is a child. Part 5. It was hot in the Hokage's office. Naruto even took off his jacket, leaving only an orange t-shirt. Kimimaro remained in his pants and a white t-shirt. In the morning Uzumaki had to go to the academy, then buy things for Kagaya and, having picked up his friend, rushed to the residence. Naruto overslept, was late for classes and got a reprimand from Yamano, had to spend almost all his savings on clothes in the store, and then a surprise was waiting for him at home. Kimimaro was still sleeping on the futon. Oil painting. They were also late for Hogake, but the old man was not surprised. Uzumaki is Uzumaki, Uzumaki will remain. Kimimaro was also given an apartment, very close to Naruto through the door. If desired, one wall can be knocked down and instead of 2 one-room apartments there will be one rather large apartment. They were released immediately, but Naruto received a disapproving shake of the head for his latest prank. He planted a stink bomb in the elder's office. The 2 blondes left quickly, too, but Uzumaki noticed something else. In the shadow of the Hokage's office stood an ANBU warrior. The plan regarding the apartment became a reality. The boys immediately turned 2 apartments into one and lived happily and drank. Cleaning and other things took another 2 days, and then Kimimaro got a job as a salesman in a bookstore. His reaction is not bad and all that is needed there is basic counting. There was only one thing that bothered Naruto. He definitely felt chakra in Kagaya, but the Hokage didn't say anything about it. He also had a premonition that something bad was going to happen. Kurama, however, gave an idea regarding the first almost problem to scan Kagaya's chakra circulation system. But how? Sasuke was sad. He was punished for nothing. He didn't intentionally spill tea on Konoha police documents. It was an accident. Little Uchiha saw how his father was nervous because of this folder with several sheets of paper. But this is not a reason to lock a child in a stuffy room for a week, where no one has the right to enter. Fugaku found himself in a very unfortunate situation. The papers on which they had prepared a speech to announce the upcoming coup that their clan would organize were hopelessly ruined. And it was catastrophically bad. The man even felt his pulse in his temples, a sign of overwork and excessive anxiety. Across Konoha, in the shadows, Root A and B were hiding. Like ants or dark crows, in every corner, these trained by the most difficult trials, tempered by grueling fights, obtained information. For Danzo. He who has the necessary and reliable information rules the world. Isn't that true? How bad was it for those who don't know about the wiretapping and speak out loud? The quotation marks represent mental conversations between the Ninetales and Naruto. Company, rise. Naruto opened his right eye. Kimimaro was standing above him, holding a pot. Naruto would have bet all his savings on the pot being filled to the brim with cold water. Naruto opened both eyes and muttered in a voice hoarse from sleep. I'm getting up. Hey, Kurama, what? It's Monday morning, approaching 6 o'clock, and you, Sir Uzumaki, still haven't gotten ready to go jogging. Uzumaki's neighbor choked on his tea. The future Genin's face was so epic. Don't worry, jailer. I'm just kidding. It's been 4 whole years since Kimimaro became a resident of Konoha. A lot has happened since then, but in short. There's no fucking way to get it short here. The red rags for washing floors were not given a word. So here it is. Kagaya and I did the renovation. Now our apartment began to resemble a normal home. In general, my life has changed quite a bit with the arrival of the former sound engineer. Yes, Kimimaru's memory has returned for the better. I wouldn't say that I'd become more sociable, but there is progress. By the way, because of my neighbor, I'd become addicted to gambling and all sorts of arguments. I lost to him once at preference, and now I have shoulder-length hair, and my hair is unruly and it takes a lot of time to take care of it. But that's not what I'm talking about. Kimimaru didn't just and immediately regain his memory. Yeah, he got himself poisoned by the Biju chakra and a good mental block, QB, damn. But he became an ordinary citizen of Konoha, and we work at a magazine stand around the corner, and he enjoys it, and I get free reading. He didn't abandon training. Kagaya even started helping me, but he didn't go beyond taijutsu exercises. He didn't want to expose his genkai. I found out about the surveillance on me. It was, yes, unexpected. I don't know his personality. I wanted to meet him. We even left notes for each other, but it wasn't meant to be. Oh yeah? Danzo got killed. Well, or maybe he kicked the bucket himself. That's not the main thing. The main thing is that it became a little easier for me to live in the village. Now it's an academy. I've advanced a little. My chakra control has increased, greatly increased, and it's become increasingly difficult to hide. No, I haven't shown my full potential, no. I became an average student. Taijutsu good, kunai throwing 6 out of 10 hits, theory AC. Only beyond the academy there was much more. I, as already mentioned, have advanced in chakra control. I jump on trees like a chunin and even stand on water, but with difficulty. I throw kunai and shuriken not at targets, but at moving targets, clones under henge at rabbits, birds, lizards, toads and other creatures. Out of 20 weapons, 15 or 18 hit the target. I have already started studying elemental techniques. Personally, I have a sensitivity to wind, water and a little bit to lightning. Kurama gives me fire chakra, but I rarely use it. His chakra harms even me. It is so poisonous, burning the respiratory tract and then healing it. Not the most pleasant sensations. Lightning is hard for me. It is weaker than wind, my native element, which neutralize each other, and it turns into a hellish mess. Kimimaru trained me in taijutsu. Now I'm in a hurry to get to the academy. We had a genin exam, which I passed, and now I have a Konoha protector on my neck. Today we will be divided into teams. For this I will even come on time. I'm sitting at the 3rd desk by the window. My neighbor is Kiba, a little higher than Shino, and in front is Sasuke and his fan club, from which Uchiha shies away like a leper. Nobody was surprised by my arrival. I was dozing. The first 5 teams have been announced, and now the 6th one. Dash. Captain of the 6th team Yamashiro Aoba. A strong jonin. He knows katan. Is not bad at genjutsu and can read minds. Team 7. Naruto Uzumaki. And then the world froze. At least not with Sasuke. At least not with Sasuke. Sakura Haruno. And Sasuke Uchiha. My life is shit. You are supervised by Hatake Kakashi. That's right, Naruto. Your life is shit. And then, perhaps it all began. Our sensei was not late. He probably forgot that he was the curator of a newly formed team of 3 genin and decided to spit on us. Or he had amnesia and ended up in the hospital. Isn't this nonsense? Team number 7 sat at the entrance to the academy. Naruto was sprawled right on the ground, and Sakura and Sasuke sat down on a wooden bench, occasionally looking at their teammate. Uzumaki was strange. No, he didn't show anything magical or unusual, just he was somehow different. The very subject of his teammates' thoughts was chewing a blade of grass. He was waiting for his new teacher. The teacher came an hour later. His Jonin vest was unbuttoned due to a broken zipper, his hair was sticking up in an unknown way, and his protector had slipped over his eye. Although, maybe that was how it was supposed to be with the protector. He ignored Sakura's angry shout about being late, and apologizing for his carelessness, suggested going to the roof of the academy. My name is Hitaki Kakashi and I am a Jonin from the village hidden in the leaves. There are many things I don't like, and there are only a few I like. There are many things I dream about, and many things I regret. Now, using an example, tell us about yourself. The Genins hesitated. It was difficult to tell about themselves right away. Let me start. Naruto raised his hand. My name is Uzumaki Naruto and I am a genin of the village hidden in the leaves. I like ramen, training and reading books, but I don't like arrogant people, daisies and magazines. I dream of becoming a strong ninja. Commendable, Naruto, commendable. Now finish off your teacher. And I really want to know the names of my parents. At that moment, even the wind fell silent. Kakashi twitched, and Sakura lowered her eyes to the floor. Many in the village knew that Naruto was an orphan, but Haruno heard it for the first time. She felt ashamed. Okay, Naruto. Just explain why you don't like daisies and magazines? Hitaki asked. He stared at his scars with his one eye. Magazines write all sorts of nonsense, and daisies. Well, I don't like them and that's it. Just as Sasuke was about to open his mouth to begin his story, an ANB warrior appeared on the roof. He sighed heavily, and his hands were shaking slightly. Kakashi-senpai, the Hokage is calling you. He said it's urgent. Pause. The Jonin took off, leaving the students alone. The ANBU followed him. So we've met, Sakura sighed with disappointment. Konoha was in turmoil. No, the Leaf Village was always awake, but now this huge organism was waiting for something. Traders and merchants were whispering with interest. Very young children were hiding in corners. Experienced ninjas were hurrying to disappear from the streets. Even the leaves rustled in a special way. Something was definitely wrong. But Team 7 clearly had no time for premonitions. These 4 people were in a hurry to get their first mission. Every genin leaves the academy with the understanding that your career growth begins at birth, and at the very beginning no one will entrust the youths with the capture of a dangerous criminal. PG-13. In progress. 443. Black Milk. Author. Advertising. Hide. Advertising. Alex May's Courses. Alex May's Courses at a discount for men and women. Find out more. Pairing and characters. Naruto, Kurama, the 3rd and 4th Hokage, all the Sannin, the Academy graduate teams. The Jinchuriki and their Bija. And of course the Akatsuki. Size. MIDI is planned, 40 pages written, 13 parts. Tags. Angst. Obscene language. OS. Everyday life. Philosophy. Elements of Geta. Description. Naruto is no longer a stupid boy shouting to the whole village that he wants to become Hokage. He's different. He doesn't care about Konoha. Dedication. I will be grateful to those who read it. Author's notes. Written on request. Psychology Gen. Naruto is no longer that loud boy. OOC. More descriptions of emotions. Although the customer doesn't give a shit about the work, I haven't stopped writing it. I'll change the plot a bit and add a Geta. There won't be a Narahina pairing. Publication on other resources. Check with the author/translator. Readers Awards. Not yet. Reward Fanfic. 443. Like. 81. Reviews. 155. In the collection. Download. View work in 155 collections. Back. Forward. Part 8. In the Village. March 1st, 2014, 11:30 p.m. Text settings. Konoha was in turmoil. No, the Leaf Village was always awake, but now this huge organism was waiting for something. Traders and merchants were whispering with interest. Very young children were hiding in corners. Experienced ninjas were hurrying to disappear from the streets. Even the leaves rustled in a special way. Something was definitely wrong. But Team 7 clearly had no time for premonitions. These 4 people were in a hurry to get their first mission. Every genin leaves the academy with the understanding that your career growth begins at birth, and at the very beginning no one will entrust the youths with the capture of a dangerous criminal. However, Naruto was more than sure every genin at least once in their life cursed the person who came up with the D rank. And the one who came up with the study too. In advance, so to speak. He stood leaning on the fence, shaking the dirt off his hands. They were clearing the garden bed of weeds now, and Naruto had tidied up his plot. In front of him, bent over like an old woman, Sasuke was finishing his work, and Sakura was preparing the hose for watering. The morning was more than pleasant, and nothing could burden it. At least, that's what all the residents of Konoha thought. Naruto came to Old Man Ichiraku dissatisfied. No normal mission, no payment, and their sensei didn't even conduct normal training. They had only one gathering, this was the test. To return to the academy, where their team had to show itself in the worst possible way. In short, Sasuke was trying to get Kakashi, who was dodging all the techniques and metal thrown by the Uchiha. Sakura was knocked out at the very beginning, and only Naruto and his sensei were running around the entire training ground like prey from a hunter. The prey, by the way, was Naruto. And Kurama is sleeping. Naruto regretted. Even 5 servings of ramen couldn't cheer up the boy. And Naruto had to admit that the desired shinobi headband didn't give him anything. Only hemorrhoids and a heavy neck. Naruto was 13 years old, he still believed in the capabilities of the human body, he read about really cool techniques, he still believed in people, but slowly and surely everything was fading away. The only thing that really made me happy was meeting Shikamaru this weekend. Well, to share impressions and all that. When Naruto was about to go home, 2 teachers from the academy, Iruka and Mizuki, appeared in the restaurant. To be honest, they had treated him well at the academy, but not positively either. They smiled at their former student, and immediately sat down to eat at the counter. And Naruto just left. And he didn't see how the teachers' heads turned to look at him. Uzumaki was in a hurry to get home. He used henge and managed to run into the store to buy some food for cooking, and now Elise was grumblingly rushing him to Kimimaro, who had a thing for being late. And Kurama warned him. He felt the danger hanging over his Jinchuriki's head, and sensed evil intentions towards him. This meant that they were in danger. And it was very close. Naruto was in a hurry to get home. No one looked back at him, and no one noticed him. Ninjas were jumping on the roofs, small children were hiding in the corners, and the rest of the population was whispering about this and that. Konoha was in turmoil. Clouds were gathering over Konoha. Part 9. What is better not to remember If you think about it, every person on earth will find in their memory an act that they regret having committed. It could be a word said at the wrong time, or an action that had dire consequences. It could be an act of inaction, a misjudgment, or even a misdirected glance. There are thousands of such moments, if you think about it. And there will be millions more mistakes in the future. Naturally, everyone is looking for a way to get rid of the annoying feeling of guilt and regret, but this way is not always found. Sometimes, the problem only gets bigger. Some decide to press on the sore spot, some limit themselves to a simple apology, some torment themselves and look for reasons for their actions. Naruto also regretted many things. Some he wished he hadn't done at all, some he could have fixed. The situation that happened a little later than the formation of Team Number 7 had a different motive. The report and tax for the mission were given to the commission and the 7th team went home. Naruto had other plans. He had recently intercepted a bunch of documents that were being smuggled through the village walls. What's wrong with that? Kimimaro asked. You yourself said that the documents were reports on a couple of failed missions and lists of students who graduated from the academy. If these documents were taken by a person or some kind of draft dog, I wouldn't worry. Here Naruto paused dramatically. But these documents were with a snake. With a white Matsudaira dash, here Naruto took out some piece of paper, and such are found only in the Dragonlands. Kimimaro looked closely at the piece of paper, which was completely covered with some names. Black Whirlwind, Spotted Asp, Swamp Hydra. His eyes looked at the list with interest. These are the names of the snakes that live in the Dragonlands. and only one person has access to their summoning. Naruto grimaced as he said this. Kimimaro looked at the impressive stack of paper that stood on the nightstand. This man is Orochimaru. He is one of the Sannin of Konoha. You know, Naruto. I'm more interested in this stack of papers. Uzumaki stopped and turned around. In his hands he held a small jar of ink, which stained his fingers black. These are lists. Some are summoned animals, some are information about famous Kekkei Genkai, some are about dojutsu, some are about chakra. To put it bluntly, these are school notes, but if you look at it from a realistic point of view, this is forbidden information that I do not have access to. Kimimaro chuckled. The fact that Naruto often climbed into places where he shouldn't still amused him. He turned his head towards the kitchen stove, checking if their dinner was in order, and continued the conversation. And by the way, I can tell you a little about Orochimaru. So you know, he is the head of Tano Kuni. At that moment, Naruto was glad that he only did low-ranking missions. He sat down on the floor and prepared to listen. Now Naruto was running through the forest from Mizuki. He was slowed down by a heavy scroll with the Hokage's secret techniques and an empty stomach, and there were no holes nearby where he could hide from the traitor. Naruto, if you think about it, you and Mizuki should be in the same boat, Kurama suggested. You're not interested in living in Konoha, but here's a good opportunity for you to escape. He works for Orochimaru. The Jinchuriki answered him. That means that he used to kiss the ass of the Konohagakure authorities, and now he's changed it to another. Here Naruto stopped. He felt someone else's chakra approaching them. And Kurama even agreed with him. And I want freedom from the authorities and the opportunity to express my opinion. Naruto stopped for a split second, and then began to move more slowly. Naruto didn't understand at all where he had sinned. He didn't want to get involved in the internal problems of the village and run into traitors, but to be an ordinary rank-and-file ninja and complete ordinary missions, pass the ordinary Chunin exam and calmly escape from the village. But you can prove your loyalty to the village and to the Hokage in particular. And you're right, Kurama. Mizuki was caught quickly. He screamed for Naruto to give him the scroll. And then he got stupid and screamed at him that he was a Jinchuriki, and he would rather burn the scroll than return it to the third. He was tied up by 2 ANBU men, and Naruto himself was taken to the Hokage, where the young Uzumaki received a new B-rank mission in his personal file, which he completed almost single-handedly. Naruto, I want to give you a gift. The Hokage smiles slightly and releases blue smoke. In front of him is a scroll of all the Kage of Konoha, and he looks expectantly at Naruto. Fuck, comrades! Kurama growls. You can look through the scroll and choose which technique you want to learn. And I will help you master it. Naruto's hands are shaking. He looks at every line, looks at the rankings, looks and greedily remembers every line he can. Naruto wants to focus on his father's techniques, but he thinks it's too obvious. But even the risk will not make Naruto pass by and read about Hirishin. He does not refuse and, with surprise, notices his father's seal on the scroll itself, on the technique itself. Old man, I have problems with clones. Let me rewrite shadow cloning, and I'll show you the result tomorrow. Hiruzen smiles even wider. You looked like a little dog. Kurama, Naruto is sure, grimaces. I wish you would behave like that with me too. Naruto answers a little later. First Madara kicked you, then Hashirama. You're not in a good mood. I'm not in a good mood, Kurama. I deny power over myself, but I can't stop pretending or behaving in an atypical way. Naruto is in a bad mood. Tomorrow he's going to show this damn technique to the Hokage, he's going to get his calling card and he's going to get a mission for the team. Everything just sucks. Before going to sleep, he thinks about the seal on the scroll, but the dream is stronger and does not allow Naruto to finish the thought, taking him captive. Matsudaira is a fictitious species of snake, created by merging 2 names of real families. You know, people tend to break down. It's just. They get tired of constantly putting on a good-natured smile. They get tired of showing themselves as worthless or incompetent. There are many such people and they are called differently. Some call them liars, some call them bastards, some call them idiots. And some don't even suspect that they exist. This was, is, and will be the case with me. For a long time I didn't understand. Why did people avoid me? Why would they be afraid of a 7-year-old boy? Take their children away from him, try to beat him and humiliate him mentally. Maybe he also wants to have a loving family and true friends. These were my thoughts. How can a little boy think so sensibly? It's simple. He is an orphan, and they, as we know, grow up early. My name is Uzumaki Naruto, and I am a resident of the village hidden in the leaves. To my chagrin, other people call me demon, fox, monster, or murderer. I, for a long time, did not understand why they hate me, and the old Hokage practically does not help me. It's offensive. And it's also very, very painful. And only a year ago, before entering the Ninja Academy, I found the answer to my question. This was another attempt to beat me up. I'm sick of it. I just want to end my life. And now, lying on the ground and feeling how a fairly abundant stream of blood, which starts from my temple, colors my hair red, I dreamed of seeing death. I want to touch her fingers. I wonder if they are cold or not? I'm already thinking about taking the hidden kunai from my breeches pocket and checking how many minutes it will take for the blood to flow out of the cut vein, but something stops me. It's as if an electric charge passed through my brain. And I just switch off, plunging into the saving darkness. Some might think that the darkness is oppressive, but in my opinion it softly envelopes the body and calms the soul. Instead of the expected impenetrable darkness, I found myself in a strange place. Endless corridors with pipes, more like a sewer with poor lighting and a strange source of heat and aggressive energy. It immediately became clear that this was chakra, but some kind of scary one. It was bright, hot, scary to the point that even the bones began to shake. I haven't been afraid of this for a long time. I already control my chakra at a level high enough for a child, and calmly standing up from the floor I walked towards the source of this terrible power. True, I was already alarmed by the fact that the ribs, which only a couple of minutes ago seemed to be ground into dust, were not broken. As we got closer to the source of this chakra, water appeared on the floor, flowing from an unknown source and how. And as we got closer to the place of interest, the chakra changed. Did it become sad and tired or something? Arriving at the place I was looking for, a golden gate appeared before me as if in a fairy tale, which was held not by a terribly complex lock, but by a simple piece of paper. And behind the cage 2 eyes with vertical pupils and a bright red iris were visible. Fury, anger, hatred and much more were visible in the eyes. But everything that was expressed in them was played by a professional actor. Without even letting the strange creature say a word, I abruptly began our dialogue. Please do not hide your true feelings. And could you introduce yourself, and also tell us where we are and how you ended up behind this strange lattice? Having said these sentences, I looked at this creature. It was in a kind of shock, but after a couple of seconds the eyes behind the cage acquired their true feelings, namely, resentment, sadness, and enormous pain. The creature spoke to me in its hoarse voice. I knew that you were pretending in front of the residents of this village. He exposed me? There's nothing surprising, Naruto. During our conversation, you'll understand who I am, and perhaps how I ended up here. Where should I begin? Let's tell you where we are, and then see how it goes. As for me, this is the best option. After a pause, my interlocutor began his speech. As you have already understood, you and I are now in an unusual place. Some call it a dream, others a second reality, others say that it is a parallel world. I call it the subconscious. This is your subconscious. You already know a lot, so I will tell you right away. How much do you know about Biju? Compare the facts and your thoughts, and I will not need to explain much. There was silence, and while Naruto was wondering who was talking to him, they decided to give him a hint. Hey Naruto, you want to see who you're talking to, right? And noticing the delight in the boy's eyes, he continued to look carefully. Gradually, emerging from the shadow of the cage, the fox-like face of this creature and its neck were illuminated. Part of the body was bright orange, like everything mentioned above, and a tail appeared. No, that's not a tails. Fluffy tails with black tassels on the edge of each. Having counted them all, one can come to the conclusion that there are 9 of them, tails. And in this room a voice sounded, but not as sharply and confidently as before. 9 tails? Wait, am I a Jinchuriki? And thanks to this conversation I learned a lot. You can even make a list, and it will look something like this. 1. I need to be wary of the elders, Koharu and Hamira. And also Shimura Danzo. The last of them is an important person who was once in contact with the village's trader, Orochimaru. 2. I realized my dream. I understood who my parents are. And even though the Ninetale didn't tell me who they were, I guessed it myself. Yes, I'm angry at my father. In his